Ever meet someone who's like so into tech, they just like breathe it?
You mean like those people who practically bleed ones and zeros?
Exactly. And today's deep dive, we're going to meet one of those guys, Wicho Science.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah, he calls himself a tech aficionado, and get this, he throws in a little rock and roll too.
Sounds interesting. What kind of stuff are we talking about with this guy?
So we've got two pieces about him. It's kind of cool, actually. One is, like, imagine a digital resume, but it's his whole journey through the tech world.
Okay, so like a tech timeline of his life.
Yeah, and the other one, it's a story, right, about how he and a friend solved this massive problem, like huge, huge problem for businesses back in the early 2000s.
The early 2000s, that was a wild time for tech, I bet. So what's the connection between like his personal tech journey and this big problem he solved?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. It's like two sides of the same coin. You know, in the first source, you see this passion for technology right from the get-go. We're talking Lotus 123, Y2K, all that good stuff.
Wow, going way back. I started with Lotus 123.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild. But it's true. This guy's experience goes back decades. Manufacturing systems, IT for big finance companies. It's like he's been everywhere.
That's what's so cool about tech, though. You can jump around and work in all these different areas.
Yeah.
You got to be able to adapt.
Oh, totally. And Wicho, he's the definition of adaptable. He doesn't just keep up with technology. It's like he knows what's coming next.
Always one step ahead.
Right. And what I find really interesting is he's got this whole other side to him. In the middle of all the serious tech talk, he mentions he loves retro gaming.
Get out.
Yeah.
Retro gaming, like old school arcade games.
Yep. Makes you think maybe those early games sparked something in him, like that passion he's carried with him through his whole career.
It makes total sense. Those early experiences, they stick with you, like they shape your interests, maybe even what you end up doing with your life.
It's true. But let's dive into the second source. This one takes us back to like 2004. Businesses are just starting to realize, hey, these ERP systems, they're pretty powerful. But there was this one kind of big problem. It was like there were these black boxes full of data, all this valuable information just locked away.
Oh, I remember those days. Getting your hands on that data was a nightmare. You'd be waiting months for a simple report.
Can you imagine trying to make a decision about your business, but having to rely on information that's months old?
Yeah. It's mind-blowing. Back then, you just couldn't access data in real time. It was a huge limitation.
It's like, talk about frustrating. Right. So they've got all this data, but they can't even use it. What'd they do about it? Wicho and his friend.
So this is where it gets really cool. They saw this problem, this like data locked-in thing, and they're like, challenge accepted.
I like their style.
Yeah, right. And the thing is, they knew the data was valuable. It just needed like a new way to get to it.
Okay, so what they do, they rewired the whole system.
Pretty much. The source mentions Firebird and MySQL. You familiar with those?
Vaguely. It's database stuff, right?
Exactly. So back then, the ERP system, it used this database called Firebird. Not bad, but not exactly known for being, flexible.
Right.
What Wicho and his friend did was they moved everything over to MySQL.
The data upgrade.
Yeah. Think of it like swapping out the engine of a car for something way more powerful.
Okay, I'm with you. So MySQL gave them more horsepower, but how did they actually make the data useful?
They got clever. They figured out a way to pull out the important stuff from this giant pile of data and display it so you could actually understand it.
So instead of just having all this raw data, they found a way to make it visual.
Exactly. Think dashboards, business intelligence, that kind of thing. Though those terms weren't really around back then.
Right. Wasn't there something about a balanced scorecard too?
Bingo. They built this whole balanced scorecard system that was pulling real-time data from the MySQL database. So now, instead of waiting months for a report, these businesses are seeing sales trends, inventory, all of it, instantly.
That's incredible. They created like a live feed instead of just snapshots. It's like the difference between reading about a game and actually watching it happen live.
Exactly. And the best part, the ERP vendor, the company that made the original system, they were so blown away that they actually adopted Wicho and his friend's solution.
Seriously? So they didn't just solve a problem, they changed how everyone else did things too.
Pretty much. It just goes to show sometimes the best solutions come from people who are willing to look at a problem and say, we can do better.
I mean, who would have thought?
Right.
This whole data revolution, and it kind of started, accidentally?
Right. It's like they weren't even trying to change the world, but their passion for the tech, for solving that problem, it led to this huge breakthrough.
It really makes you think, like, what if they just said, nah, that's too hard? where would we be now?
Exactly. Imagine a world with no real-time data, no instant dashboards. It's crazy to think about.
For sure. But here's the thing I keep coming back to, and maybe it's because I'm not a tech person, but this isn't just a tech story, is it?
You're right. It's way bigger than that.
It's about seeing a problem and having the guts to fix it.
Exactly. And not giving up, even when it gets tough. That's the key.
So it's like those skills, that whole way of thinking, that's something anyone can use.
Yeah.
In any field, right?
Absolutely. You could be a chef, a musician, an entrepreneur, whatever you're into. If you can spot a problem, imagine a solution, and then make it happen, you're golden.
Golden. I love that. So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Wicho Science and his data adventures,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway? What do you want our listeners to remember?
I think it's simple. Find what you're passionate about. That thing that makes you go, I wonder if, because you never know, that little spark of curiosity. It might just lead you to do something amazing.
That's so true. You might just become the next Wicho Science, right? Solving problems, changing the game.
Yeah.
All because you followed your inner geek.
Exactly. Embrace your inner geek, folks.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.